My dear friends, The Acolyte episode 6 is out. They've set up a couple of major things that I think most fans have missed. But with just 2 episodes to go, this was much slower paced than I expected, but it's down to the last 2 episodes to have the monumental task of doing what Leslie Edlund promised, give us a satisfying conclusion. Because keep in mind, my dear friends, she said she wasn't relying on the fact she might get a season 2, and this does come to an end, in a way that does feel all-encompassing. So if that's the case, they gotta get a move on. After the next episode, I'm hoping the finale is going to be a long one. For the budget, you'd hope so. But the big reveals in this episode came in the form of the dialogue and the aesthetic of one of the planets. If true, I think it's more important than you know. A lot was implied about Qimir's complicated past, and I believe it is strongly connected to Vernestra Rwoh. More on this later in the video. As predicted, this episode sets up the second flashback from Brendok, which is next week in episode 7. Sol is about to reveal the truth to May and confess his sins. What's been troubling him? He promises to reveal this to the High Council, but I've got a feeling he's not making it back to Coruscant. In this breakdown, I'm also going to reveal how I think the next 2 episodes are going to play out, and some major connections between various characters. So no more jibber jabber, let's dive right in. Osha's been taken by Qimir to the same planet we saw earlier in the season, the one where May went to meet him. Now, I'm in 2 minds about this. On the one hand, I'm pretty sure this is Arcto from the sequel trilogy, but a part of me wonders if it's a very clever Legends reference. So far the series has been good at showing us the names of planets on screen, but interestingly enough, this one is labelled Unknown Planet. This could be deliberate, but definitely looks like one of the islands on Arcto, the birthplace of the Jedi Order in canon, and the location of the first Jedi Temple. This provides a certain irony, because in the century leading up to the Phantom Menace, the Sith could have been hiding and scheming on a planet that has such heavy ties to the origins of the Jedi. As I covered in a video a couple of months ago, this is alluded to in the Last Jedi novelization. Various fringe and dangerous Force individuals and Force cults utilized Arcto, although there were no signs such as porgs or caretakers. But instead, we did see these interesting birds that kind of resemble mini versions of thalassirens, the giant cow thing that Luke milked. But the theory I love the most is that due to the connection to cortosis mining, and we did see at the end a cortosis or vein, this planet could be Buldemnik, from the start of Darth Plagueis by James Luceno, the place Darth Tenebrous was killed by Plagueis. Buldemnik is described as an ocean planet adorned with rocky islands. Darth Tenebrous discovered the planet's crust possessed large deposits of cortosis ore, which he personally began mining. Cortosis was a valuable resource for armor and helmets, giving them the ability to cause lightsabers and blasters of opponents to temporarily short out, as we saw in the last episode. It also prevented Force users reading your mind. Are they setting up a massive connection to whoever Qimir's mysterious master is? And does it connect to the fan favourite Sith? So Osha wakes up and follows Qimir, who is about to bathe. Personally for me, the vibe of this scene and the entire episode was very strange, a bit uncomfortable at times. I don't know if that was deliberate, and the pacing in the first half was very, very slow. It dragged. But as I say, we learn a lot about Osha and Qimir through their conversations. The idea that Jedi Padawans are just a reflection of their masters, and Qimir seems to think that whatever path he's following, I assume the Bainite Sith rule of 2, provides a certain level of freedom from that, which is what he offers Osha. Her repeating the line from the Jedi that all of the things Qimir lists as below the surface, so anger, fear, loss, being passed to the dark side, are actually ones to be embraced. And we know Osha is full of that, full of insecurity, full of fear of her past, fear of being alone. And while the Jedi rejected her for those very things, Qimir is playing off her insecurities and offering her a home, a different path, but manipulating her nonetheless. I think she's going to cave in. I believe Osha is going to finish the show as the Acolyte. And I still believe, my dear friends, Qimir is going to take Osha to Brendok, tell her the truth, and after the revelation, the same one Sol is telling May, Osha is going to murder her former master Sol and become the Acolyte. That is my prediction. But something that was also teased by Leslie Edlund is that there is a romantic rapport between Osha and Qimir. And speaking of him, it's interesting that he was once a Jedi Padawan himself, a long time ago. I didn't think he was that old, but I have a hunch he was a Jedi Padawan at the same time as Sol. He was abandoned and chucked away by the Jedi, something we've seen time and time again in Star Wars canon and legends, but in this instance, we have a clue as to who his master was. He's got a massive scar on his back that sort of looks like it was caused by a light whip, one we see in the present day on Kofar. Was Vernestra Rwoh his former master, and does that mean this entire time that the May debacle was happening when she was killing Indara, Torbin, Kelnaka, that at the back of Vernestra's mind, she knew it was her former Padawan turned rogue Sith? Is that who she's talking about when she says, someone is trying to tip the scales? I think she's afraid to reveal the truth, and I think it's a secret that she's kept from everyone. It's why she's so scared of what the Senate is saying, the review into the Order's handling of things, as was set up in this episode. Why would Vernestra be so afraid? Are we going to see a confrontation between Qimir and Vernestra? And this adds another dimension of cover-up from the Jedi. When the human dude was like, would Master Sol have done this? I think Vernestra might decide to use that against him, set him up and frame him, because she wants to conceal the fact her former Padawan now wields a red blade, and as I say, has turned to the dark side. But still, the Jedi in this show all have to die, in order for canon leading up to episode 1 to be coherent and still make sense. Now I've got to say, I'm pretty disappointed by Vernestra Rwoh's live-action depiction. This is just not the same character from the books. I know she's much older, but she is such a deceptive character in this show. This is a major deviation. But one thing from this episode that was lifted from the High Republic books is Vernestra's hyperspace nausea. Just a small nod, but not much else. Now some say Qimir was trained by a Sith. When he was talking about his master, he wasn't talking about his Jedi days, but rather more recently being thrown away by a Sith Lord. And maybe that incentivized him to start his own movement. There are several acolytes across the galaxy. This, at least in legends, we know. It seems as though slowly but surely, Osha is taking a place. As Qimir said, he made a mistake with May. He was looking for the anger, fear and vulnerability that Osha possesses. But I believe the next episode is going to be one of the most important of the entire series. The full flashback to Brendok, the truth. What has Master Sol been hiding? The emotional burden was very well acted by Li Jungjie. Something is plaguing him. Did he know it was May all along? Because before he stuns her, he seems genuinely convinced that it is Osha. One moment I found hilarious is when May resets Pip to factory settings, almost like it's an iPhone. Just hold down the side button and the lower volume button and bam. Something I didn't expect for a Star Wars episode. I'm hoping the next episode has some major reveals and moves the story along. Even though it is a flashback episode, it has the potential to set up a big clash, a major showdown in the final week in episode 8 after it. I also got the impression that Osha putting on the Cortosis helmet was Leslie Headland trying to evoke Darth Vader imagery, but I believe it's symbolic for a transformative moment in her journey. This is it. I don't think there's any going back. And also notes the chase sequence between Qimir and Sol has not yet taken place. It seems implied they're going to go to Brendok at some point in the present day. That was revealed in some of the Korean footage, the promos. So as I say, the final week will have some kind of showdown. But what did you think? Let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments down below. Did you enjoy it? Why so, or why not? And if you like this breakdown, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you, always.